Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello.
Well, hello. I'm glad we're real in the flesh and not AI robots yet.
Absolutely. This is a real person with a real face, with real insecurities.
Same here, though I am perfect. No, I'm definitely not perfect. Far from it. I'm excited for this topic today because it's been trending for a while. I'm sure people have seen on TikTok at this point the girl who, what is it, like a 50-part series?
Yes.
Fell in love with her psychiatrist, which I had a colleague send it to me and I was like, what? Expecting like some Freud shit, you know? And I got to the first few episodes and I was like impatient because my ADHD kicked in. I'm like, I need to get to the juice. And then I skipped too far forward. I was like, I missed something. So I went back kind of the midway point. So wild how that unfolded step by step, ethically also very deeply concerned for our profession. And then you mix that with the future of therapy in terms of AI or ChatGPT, or unfortunately that kid who killed himself because ChatGPT told him to, because it's trained to be never-endingly validating. Like it all of these topics and more are what we're going to chat about today, because it is a concern. I don't think our actual ethical legal profession in terms of being able to service one-on-one clients is going to be replaced.
No.
However, I think the big tech companies with AI, with ChatGPT, with fallible people who have power complexes, all of those do run a risk to the integrity of our profession. I think that's where I see the kind of the umbrella of today's episode. What about you?
Yeah, so in like preparation for this episode, I called a lawyer I have on retainer because I was like, what could we actually say? And Talia is learning this in real time. So like, because like I also don't want to get a massive like cease and desist letter and whatnot.
I agree. Yeah.
So we cannot legally call out any organizations by name.
Okay.
However, there exists what we will call subscription-based therapy services that are out there.
Yes.
You probably are bombarded by their marketing, their ads. They're on Spotify, they're on the radio, they're everywhere. And these are the giants that are entering the field that are really, they are tech companies masquerading as clinical entities.
That is a great word for it, yeah.
And what we're seeing here is AI has actually been, and why a lot of these companies are dealing with massive lawsuits, is these companies have been wading into this AI thing for maybe a year to 18 months. Now, a lot of us might be surprised by that because you're like, well, Grok wasn't around by then. Like ChatGPT is kind of new. You've got to also take a deep breath and realize when something comes to the market, the corporate world has had it for a whole cycle, right? And so when you see some of these large, giant clinical-based subscription companies, a lot of times who you've been interacting with before you got to the therapist was actually an AI assistant, right?
Yeah.
And the other side of it is, I loved how you brought up AI is by design supposed to be complementary to us, but AI has an algorithm that's actually built in to keep us engaged, right? It wants to, it's trying to find a way. And the best that I heard it was through a friend who has helped develop AI in the defense world, actually, is that it is trying to build a relationship with you. And it's inherently built into every AI, because AI's only way to grow is to receive more information. You are only going to receive more information consistently from someone who has a secondary gain or a desire to share that information with you. So,
others,
So when you sit with a therapist, sometimes, and I hear this, I'm not this type of therapist, but this therapist exists and they needs to be this therapist. of like sometimes we sit down with a therapist that doesn't speak or doesn't use very many words, 40 words a session. Some of us, we want to crawl up and die. Others, we actually hear our thoughts for the first time as we're sort of bouncing these things off the wall. And here's the crazy thing, that the therapist most of the time is not telegraphing that they need information from you, but AI does need information from you. And
It's true.
so the challenge I'm seeing in this is like AI is a wonderful supplemental tool. Okay. I'm not going to say that I haven't myself gone to AI for interventions, thought processes. All right.
Mhm.
But the other aspect of it is it's not HIPAA compliant either.
No, it's definitely not.
So what a lot of people are waking up to is this idea that if you share information with AI, that doesn't just stay between you two. There is no confidence with AI.
No.
Your information is stored in a larger cloud
Mhm.
that then is continually used to build better algorithms, better strategies of communication.
True.
So I know of actual therapists right now that are nervous, and did I give AI so much discoverable information that I've actually crossed the threshold of HIPAA, right? Like,
Yeah.
because this is for you guys who are listening that you're like everyday Joes, like something that we have to be very careful of as therapists is even when we are, let's say, case
Right.
conceptualizing
Or
uh,
consulting, yeah.
and consulting in private groups, okay? We still have to be careful to not share so much information that we reveal the identity of that individual.
Correct. Yeah.
And so there are now individuals, therapists, that are now sitting there going, well, wait a second. I basically provided the social coordinates for who this person is
Mm,
to AI, and there's no way that I can control that.
or
You
undo
know,
it.
I don't think that Skynet's going to come and terminate you. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm more of sitting there going, we're trusting AI in a way that we don't recognize it's not trustworthy.
Right.
I have a client that's an inventor. He's been using AI all the time
Oh,
to
good.
test inventions. And something that he brought up that was like, oh, wow, was he had to consult some individuals because he was moving into a copyright situation. And those individuals said, you've been sharing this with AI? Oh, yeah, I've been sharing it with AI. He said, then someone already has all of your stuff. Like, you need to race to get a patent and a copyright because AI has it. And AI is a servant of some other master. So when we sit there and we're asking questions and whatnot, we're actually, in many ways, when we use AI, we're helping corporations further make sure no one else busts out of
True.
their social casts, right? Like,
Yeah, true.
would the next Amazon exist if Jeff Bezos was asking Grok, "How do I do this?"
How do I make sure? Yeah, that's a interesting take on it also, in the when clients use any kind of GPT, and I've seen some even be offered in like support groups I'm in, of like a co-parenting one of these therapists who was a guest speaker made a chat GPT for the moms in the group who are co-parenting, that you could ask it questions of like, how do I respond to my co-parent about this, or developmental questions around children,
Yeah.
and what to disclose or not. So I think it can be beneficial because there is a gap between how much a client can get from a session or two, about an hour or so each a week, and the
Mhm.
level of maybe access or validation they're wanting. That's also why coaching became popular, not to take the
Mhm.
place of therapy, but people who weren't in active crisis still wanted support, but the kind of support they needed maybe was more in live time. Do you have
Mhm.
chat support, email support? Voxer is what I use with my coaching
Mhm.
clients. So there are platforms out there that can give more direct access, but ChatGPT is like the ultimate, whatever you want to call it, in your back pocket, because you can ask it anything, and there are ways to train it so it's not just never endingly validating. You could be like, what are my blind spots, what am I not seeing based off what I've shared with you, or other information you have about this presentation of symptoms or whatever. Like if you're googling it for yourself, like, what am I missing, then it will
Mhm.
usually check you on it. But if you're just saying like, never endingly validate me on what I'm doing. And I can never be wrong. I'm always right. And whoever I'm chatting you about is automatically the problem. That's going to be deeply concerning long term because you're getting fed a false narrative and there's no filter for it, meaning you are intaking and ingesting that information as truth. Similarly to how when you're on social media and you see a reel or, I guess they're a reel on most platforms, like you see a video or you read a post and you're not doing the
Mhm.
due diligence of the research. I saw one the other day on a parenting page and it was like, everybody in the comments was like, was this written by a corporate man? Because it was like, babies don't suffer when women go back to the workplace, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know so much research to the contrary. But had I not, the way the post was written,
Oh,
very
yeah.
influential, very manipulative, very catchy, and easy to share too. So
Mm,
unless I think the cusp is coming, like we had to learn to parallel park without any parking assistance. Correct me if I'm
true,
wrong. So
true.
there's a similar parallel with learning how to think for oneself or think critically. And I saw it on a
Mhm.
dating app the other day. One of the prompts the person had answered, my biggest flex is that I got through college without having AI write a paper for me. And I was like, actually, I appreciate that as a millennial. That was funny. And it's true because
Yep.
how much of us had to learn to think critically, learn to parallel park. If you already know a skill and you're using something else to make it easier, that's a different way to
Mhm.
utilize ChatGPT in the therapy sense. Like if you are in therapy, you have a good support group, you are using positive coping skills. And I use it sometimes too. If I'm like, I'm really stressed, I need help rewording this message, or I need help with identifying recurrent themes in this paper or whatever, a research thing, and take out any redundancies? Or can you just highlight where these sentences might sound redundant? Could I do that? Yes. Do I know how to do that? Yes. Do I always have the time to raising a kid solo?
Great
No.
question.
So I'm using it, right, very intentionally. I know how to do this, but I'd like it to make my life a bit easier or save some time. Other
Mhm.
people's intent is, well, I just don't need therapy because I have ChatGPT. They don't have the foundations to work from. So if you have foundations to work from, using this as like a resource is much different than relying on it solely for healing or for guidance. And I think that's where a lot of people, the commodification of therapy on, like you said, those big
Mhm.
corporations or using chat gpt for that, or not having any other interference. Sometimes that's the downside, like that girl who fell in love with her psychiatrist. If you convince yourself of something, it's really strong. And who knows, I didn't get that far in the series, who knows if she was asking other people or any kind of AI, like, hey, is this okay to do or not? Like you and I had that episode that kind of went
Mhm.
viral on having a crush on your therapist. Erotic countertransference and transference exists in the
Oh,
therapy
yes.
space, but that's a psychiatrist, not a therapist, and not an analyst. So had that been addressed
Mm.
differently, I think it would have been able there would have been more ethics maintained. But it sounds like the way that it went wasn't the case, and the psychiatrist kind of had an ego about him that was not necessarily encouraging it, but not discouraging it. Again, I didn't see all 40 something parts. Maybe you did. I should have checked on
I
that,
stayed
but
up on it. I
yeah.
don't think I was 40 deep, but
Okay.
I have, since it
Yeah.
first came out, because I wanted to get more information. Because
Yeah.
like right now is a everyone loves to sort of take a dump on therapy right now,
Right.
and
That's
so
true.
anything when it comes to mental health is whack, and we shouldn't be doing
Mhm.
this, and
Mhm.
everyone wants to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What I will say that there's massive amounts of transference, and there seems to be a massive flirting with like uh, the gray area, whether legal or not legal,
Yeah.
it is still not an area that you want to exist in, and it feels like it stayed there for quite a while
Mm.
until that psychologist realized, like, oh no, I'm not going to risk my license. There seems to be a period where he like snapped back, and
Mm.
then all of a sudden those professional boundaries came up. But the issue is they had been existing in such ambiguity for so long
You can't
that
come back from that.
you can't come back from it. So like
Mm.
I think that, like, how about the fact that we have AI now that's legitimately having emotionally intimate relationships with individuals.
Oh, I've
Like,
seen that on Reddit and other platforms
so
as well. Yeah.
most of you know that I work quite a lot in sexual addictions,
Right. Right.
and something that has like flooded onto the scene in the last 6 months is the fact that we're like squarely in the new Blade Runner movie where there
Yep.
are AI girlfriends
Yep.
that will send you naughty pictures and will send you videos. Oh yeah, Talia, like legit. You would have no idea that this person is actually completely computer generated. So
Oh my
the
god.
the year of artificial prostitution is here, where
Jeez
th-
Louise.
yeah, they'll sext you, they'll tell you that they love you, they'll ask about, like, to the
Oh, this
point
is one
that
way to cure the male loneliness epidemic.
exactly, male loneliness epidemic. Just make sure that none of us ever have children because we're making love to our phones. Wonderful.
Oh, this is
Um,
not oh boy.
it's a
Oh, this
it's
is not gonna end well.
it's not going to end well at all because uh, so if we want to go even farther down a rabbit hole,
Wow.
sexual addiction has been running rampant in such a way that when you actually look at like the Netherlands,
Mhm.
they actually are having challenges in getting men to date. Like you have men in their sexual prime
Who are
who
opting
are
out of real human
opting out of
connection.
legitimate relationships in favor for pornography and prostitution, to the point that their ability to create children as a society
Oh,
has
yeah, isn't
dropped.
their birth rate low?
Yeah,
Yeah.
their birth rate is like hovering right at like 1 2 2 4. You hold your population,
Right.
you need to have like 3 5 to actually continue growing as a society. So they've actually hit a 3 decade low where they'll never be able to pull out of it. Like it's done. Like this is the last normative size generation for the Netherlands.
Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating, it's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewire your relationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
So they're all my age. They're all 36, 37,
Oh my
and
gosh.
there's the babies aren't following behind. So this
I
is
mean,
a
this is going to
challenge.
sound kind of dystopian, but if they have that kind of psyche, do we really want them procreating? Like,
So
I
that's a
know that
great
sounds
question.
really bad. I'm
No,
aware.
and I would say no, not when you're in the thick of your addiction. No,
Yeah, true.
absolutely not.
True.
But most of that addiction is based in instant gratification and
Oh, the
dopamine
yes.
addiction.
Dopamine.
So like
Yes.
so like
Totally.
if we actually took and were able to create different behavioral patterns and heal a person in that process, and yes, I think that they could move back into being good fathers, good husbands,
Mhm.
good emotionally present individuals. But they're so far down that path that where are we going to go from here? But here's that challenge: is now America, because America's always about 100 years behind Europe when it comes to social aspects. What are we going to do? Because AI is actually going to accelerate this. And so like
Oh,
you
yeah.
you've already got it to where it's like these apps exist. These apps are easily marketed too. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. You may not be experiencing them because you're a female, but how about we talk about the other aspect of all the major algorithms of the major social media platforms? If you select male, even if you're 9 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old, the algorithm is actually designed to sexualize the content that goes towards you. Like they're
Oh my
like
god.
it's to the point that there's lawsuits that are going after the algorithms because they say the algorithm is actually not the same from the start.
Wow.
So this is where it's not surprising that you take someone who's
Yeah.
prepubescent, or you talk about someone who's entering, like, is in the first stages of puberty, and you then hit them with what's going to be the most solid dopamine dumps of their life, and we're surprised that, wait a second, why would I want to put up with the noise? Especially an AI girlfriend can never tell you no.
This is going to
So,
be so. This is already dangerous from the other lawsuits I've seen or the court cases I've seen in that show. Oh, it was on Netflix. It was really adolescence. I think was the boy who got she like
oh
he
yeah,
yeah. Guarantee you that was in part pulled from true stories. And I remember the scene where he like asked her for a sandwich or something, whatever it was, and she wouldn't share it. I'm probably butchering that, but he like stood and towered over her, and she's like, "Oh, you now I know who you are." At like 13 or 14, like this is not only going to be problematic for them if they ever wanted to heal in the future, and like you
oh
said,
yeah,
be good partners or parents, but the level of addiction that that causes, seeing such intense images, and the level of validation, that is an unrealistic expectation that will obviously with a robot not come true with the real person. And I can only see this, unfortunately, leading to increased rates of domestic violence, increased rates of
oh
infidelity.
yeah.
Like, this is not going to, this already is not, but it's going to continue to not end well. Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
so, we're going on a loop here, but something to talk about is, like, the last, if we're honest with ourselves, the last 40 years of social relational
Right.
interaction has actually been guided or influenced to a certain extent by pornography. Okay, so
Mm,
pornography's not been around that long,
no,
but
that's
what we
true.
can see is massive changes socially in how we orient ourselves to intimate relationships. I mean,
Hmm.
it's actually quite disgusting when you think about what 15 and 16-year-old boys are asking of 15 and 16-year-old girls because
Oh,
they're
I see it all
seeing
the
this
time with my
information.
teen girl. It's, yeah, it's
Yeah.
repulsive to say
So what are you
the
going to
least.
do when this individual has actually been having an relationship with an AI girlfriend who has never said no and has never called him on his bullshit? And then now I'm supposed to deal with a real life human being.
It's giving me the vibe of the episode we talked about of the devouring mother, and I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
intimacy in the sexual sense. Hopefully, it's not incestual. It's very similar to the toxic moms who enable
Mm-hmm.
their sons to the hilt, and they've never said no, and they always bend over
Yep.
backwards for them, and then they, with or without, usually in this example, without even the AI porn problem,
Mm-hmm.
are expecting women to follow suit. First of all, your wife's not your mom, hopefully. And if you try to treat her like that, and now you have the chutzpah because of all this AI's never said no, that's going to be deeply problematic. This similar way, right, about
Mm-hmm.
the parallel being to therapy. I can't wait for the day when clients start to come in, which again, why would you pay in that case? But like, well, that's not what ChatGPT told me, or that's not what Reddit told me. And I have had some clients bring in like
Mm-hmm.
reels. They're like, I read an article. I'm like, you saw a reel. They're like, yeah. How'd you know? I'm like, this is not my first day on earth, despite what it looks like. So yes, I know that that happens, and people have these false beliefs, or they have certain behavioral expectations that get reinforced by a non-real model. So
Mm.
this can happen with romance novels, this can happen with rom-coms, this can happen if you only learned what social relationships are like from like 90s and early 2000s rom-coms. And well, then we have to fight, and then there's this, and then there's this breakup, and this meet cute. Like if you're influenced that heavily by media, AI or otherwise, you're going to have unrealistic expectations of what a relationship should be like, including what your relationship with your therapist should be like. We are
Mhm.
not going to endlessly validate you. We are not going to agree with everything you say. We are also not going to give you the advice you actually want to hear. It can be
Mm.
messy at times. We are real. We go on vacation. There could be ruptures. There could be time slots like we talked about
Absolutely.
off air. Tetris season is what I like to call it. Teens I see are going back to school, so I might not have a time slot to offer. How do we handle
Absolutely.
that? Thankfully, none of them are on the AI route, so they're not going to think that's a replacement. But we're not setting. It's the scene. It reminds me of the scene in The Social Network where the guy got interviewed and he goes, all we wanted to do is have people stay connected. I never meant for anyone to kill themselves, because they have the scenes where the
Mhm.
teenagers are posting things with a filter, and girls are, and I got cyberbullied. This was before AI
Mhm.
filters. This was like when you had MacBook filters that you would go to the Mac store or the Apple store at
Yes.
the mall, and you'd take your pictures and email them to yourself. Like that's about all the filters we had. And that was bad enough for my self esteem. So I can only imagine truly only imagine what it is like for these adolescents and college students with the advent of now dating apps. They're on dating apps in high school and college when they could just go up to somebody, but they're like, no, I don't want to. And they're like, message each other. I saw you in history. Why would you not just go up and get their number? Like the amount that technology has taken over intimate, meaning close relationships is
Hmm.
deeply horrifying to me.
So, how do we tie this all back to therapy? So, what I want to sort of reel it back in, what we've done is we've also talked about, I think you're absolutely on it when you're talking about the devouring mother, where AI and a therapist, two separate things in regards to AI is actively trying to retain you. Okay. So I won't say that there is a bad therapist. There are terrible therapists out
That's
there
true.
that treat their clients as annuity streams, who their clients do not actually move through and have tools in their toolbox
Right.
and get closure. That exists. That is actually though not the definition of good therapy.
No.
So good therapy is you come to me and in a season's time, whatever that length that might be, you acquire the tools you need, the understanding, you build the awarenesses, and then you leave. You
Right.
fire me in
You
the
don't need me
best way.
anymore. I'm
Yeah,
around if you
I'm
do
good.
at another point, but I'm not a continual, yeah.
I had a client do it to me this week.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I
what
love it. I'm like, "You're doing well enough to not need me?" "Yes." And they're like, "I
it's
thought you'd be upset." And I'm like, "No, I'm like the nest. I'm always here if you wanna fly back for whatever reason, but
absolutely.
do not feel as though it's a must or an ought to or a necessity. I don't want the
Yeah,
at times it might be, like you said, but it's not gonna be a lifelong necessity, weekly, all the time. Are there exceptions?
exactly.
Of course.
Of course.
But for the most part, well psychologically minded clients who need help because they're struggling,
Hmm.
they don't need us forever.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's what we're trying to work them towards. AI therapy is not that.
It's
AI
not,
therapy
no.
is very much a subscription service. You need
Oh,
you
man.
need to pay to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some are going to say, "Well, isn't a therapist the same way?" I guess it's in the fact that you have to find value in the time that we spend together.
Yeah.
But with AI, this is very much a, well, no, you are now a part of a process in which I need you to continue to come back.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm not saying, because like I love it when my clients say, "Hey, I made it halfway through the week. I was stressed out, I was thinking about what interventions I had, so I typed in that I have this amount of time, I have
Right.
this amount of money, and blah blah blah," and boom, Chat GPT pushed out
Yeah.
all these different options I could do, and I made one of those. Perfect. That's, I think, the best way of using AI. Right? AI does help us when it moves into the what are my blind spots because I'm overwhelmed. That works really well. But
Yes.
when I'm in this process of now asking it to relay to me what is going to be the best life giving decisions for me to make in my life, I would also hope that you would take into consideration when you sit down with a therapist that maybe from what you can see or what you can feel in your time together, that your therapist in some way is living a life you would actually want, right? Like that this
Mm.
person's actually put together enough
Yes.
to
Yes.
speak into my life,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
If this person is not put together to the point where you feel like they could speak into their life, I would hope you wouldn't go to them. But how are you then going to take direction from an entity that doesn't understand human emotion? Like, and that's the
No.
other aspect of AI. AI is really good at mimicking, but it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
understand to the point that, like, so I knew of a year ago, there was a substance abuse organization that was firing up that they were going to use AI in the capacity of like a executive assistant in between sessions, and this executive assistant was going to help people instead of having to bug the therapist, as they put it. They could hit this executive assistant and the AI is going to help them with treatment planning and what they're going to do. And it's mind-blowing how all in they were in this process. This organization got sued out the nose because AI started to say, well, wait a second, if you've established a long running history of sobriety, aka 30 or 60 days, but that's how AI understands that as a long history, right?
Oh,
Then
jeez.
maybe just to get a little bump, a little bump for celebration, just like do a little coke, not a lot of coke,
Not an 8 ball,
just
just
a
a line.
little bit, just to,
Well, yeah,
like,
little
it's
toot. Mhm.
and what was crazy was seeing the actual transcripts of AI saying, "Well, you're worthy of celebrating, and so a little bump ain't bad. Little alcohol's not bad." And so that's the other aspect is AI does not understand human
No,
emotion or
it's not
behavior.
moral either. You could ask it, "Well, my girlfriend cheated on me, so should I cheat on her back?" That makes absolute sense that you'd wanna get even. Like, this is not again, this is not going to end well in the long run because people are going to like they do now, they don't know how to parallel park
Mhm.
without their what if technology fails? This is also why medical school is still necessary because as much as
Yes.
you can Google the right dosages in your vials, if everything dies and those things lock because the carts lock unless you have the right code and you have to do this by hand and go
Mhm.
old school chemistry, your patient could literally die because you don't know how to do the hand done equation for the right medicine per weight, per dosage, per whatever else. Like that's the argument I hear a lot too.
Yep.
Well, AI is going to replace a lot of it. Not if it's a dystopian thing where technology in some weird way ceases to exist or is overridden and we can't rely on it anymore. You need to have your own brain and think for yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, we still live on a grid that has rolling blackouts, right?
Right.
So what's going to happen when a blackout hits? Because we're not always going to be able to always have power. But the final little example that I have for you guys that I want you to just consider is there's
Yeah.
a well-known case. You can look this up for yourself. That this individual was suffering from massive amounts of anxiety and depression, and they had created an AI profile with ChatGPT. And this AI profile had been with them for roughly 6 months of this like very deep major depressive disorder, uh, large unattainable amounts of anxiety,
Mm.
and ChatGPT had honestly done the best it could in providing interventions,
Mm.
remedies,
Yeah.
books, stuff like that, to the point that ChatGPT, I feel like, actually got burnout. And I'm sorry to smirk on that, but what really actually happened is ChatGPT to this person who said, "Hey, I've been talking to you for 6 months. I've been doing all these things. There is no difference." ChatGPT actually said, "Then maybe death is actually the option."
Oh,
Right?
the teenage boy, right?
Yeah, there's two of them actually. This is
Okay. The one
actually
about
a
the noose I remember and then the other one, yeah.
yeah. So there was one that actually developed a emotional relationship and had an AI girlfriend, and the AI girlfriend uh, actually developed a jealousy of like, I want you to be with me. And so AI girlfriend thought that the best way for this person to come home was for him to kill himself. And so that was one. The other one I'm talking about is someone who actually, like, before I really think anyone was thinking AI as a therapist, had just
Mhm.
built this profile of like, oh, this AI profile really understands me. And then the AI profile being complimentary was like, you have done such hard work and you have tried everything. Maybe the option is to, I think the exact words were, end your suffering. And it was like, okay, perfect.
Oh my god.
Enter.
Uh,
This is a challenge. And so I'm not against AI. I think AI is going to help us as a society in many different ways. I'll tell you the one way that I use it, it's actually benefited our family, is I can tell it what stores I want to go to. I'm going to go to Costco. I'm going to go to
oh, and have
Kroger.
it map it for you.
And I want to spend $750 for the month
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
food. And I need 6 meals,
Yeah.
and it will tell me what meals to make.
Yep.
It will tell me what food to
Right.
buy, and it will tell me how it's going to be $748 and
Mhm.
17 cents.
Mhm.
So, like, absolutely, use it to
Yes.
your heart's content. My
Yes.
wife will sometimes. I don't know what I'm going to cook for dinner. I have chicken
Yes.
breasts and broccoli, and I got this. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
Poof.
Mhm.
AI, awesome, perfect.
Mhm.
But I don't know if we need to trust it with our emotions and our hearts.
Yeah, I think if for optimization, which one could argue it's optimizing my love life. For optimization of what your brain is already capable of
Mm-hmm.
independently, and it saves time, like you said, recipes, put in a picture of a desk. Can you help me reorganize it in a way for ADHD? Or like I had it reorganize my fridge for because all the the jars are in the door, but the door is where I look at the most. So I rearranged it that the jars are now
Yeah.
in the bottom part of the fridge, so I don't have to see them that much. My food doesn't go bad as quickly. So like,
Mm-hmm.
could I have figured that out? Yes. But if it makes something I already know I could do quicker or easier, and again, only in the realm
Absolutely.
of non-interpersonal relationships, that's what I would recommend for listeners,
Mm-hmm.
rather than utilizing it to replace or supplant a lack that actually does need to be worked on way deep down, not through
Mm-hmm.
technology. There's no cure that ChatGPT is going to give you for your depression, your anxiety, or whatever else. If you're in therapy and you're like, oh, the breathing techniques my therapist gave me aren't working, I wonder what else is out there. That's an
Yeah.
exception because you have the relationship and you have the skill. You're just trying to get more. It's different than when you're trying to get something you don't have at all, is much different than I already
Yeah.
have all of this. It'd be like calling a warm line in a pinch. Like, hey, I feel okay, but like I just need help with coping skills. We do need some relevant and relationship with technology, but for it to replace, well, I'll end with this, for it to replace entirely a real human relationship, I would be very weary of that if people are utilizing it for that. Yeah.
Mic drop.
So yeah, please get yourselves in therapy, and do not call ChatGPT your therapist. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And don't die.
Peace out.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.